Welcome into the National Defense, ladies and gentlemen, the most trusted name in news in Kansas City and maybe the world, Kris Ketz, evening anchor, chief anchor for KMBC Channel 9. Kris, how are you?
I'm well, Randy. How are you?
Hey, you were so nice to interview me about my book. And
you mean the book Prizes, Pranks, and the Purse Lady, The Misadventures of the Randy Miller Morning Show, available at randymillerradio.com. That book?
That's exactly the one. Thank you. I'm surprised you dropped the sandwich sign.
Well, I'm just here to sell your book. That's all. No, seriously though,
Kris, it's so great to have you.
I mean this sincerely. It was a fun read, and for people,
thank you,
your generation and mine, who remember the day, and it wasn't all that long ago when Randy.
No,
Miller...
it wasn't all that long, Kris. Don't act like they're dinosaurs. God, for people that aren't dead.
But when Randy Miller was when it came to radio in Kansas City, and all of the things he did, and all of the trouble he got into, and all of the entertainment that was provided over many, many years, and the money you made for radio stations, my goodness.
Where did it go, Kris? where is it all now?
It didn't go to you and me. I know that.
I'm out here somewhere living in a field in Lone Jack, Missouri, trying to keep track of my life. But
also, it's God's country, by the way.
It is God's country. It is God's country. I want to talk about you because a little birdie told me that somebody just signed a new contract.
I'm just happy I have a gig. That's all.
No, listen, you have been in and around Kansas City, and it was weird how this happened, but all of a sudden, a lot of Channel 9 viewers discovered that Larry Moore was gone and wasn't seen again, and all of a sudden, Kris Ketz showed up. So, has there been an investigation? Has there been any kind of an inquiry?
All I can say is that there was a thorough investigation, and at the time, I remember detectives checking the trunk of my car,
right,
just to be sure. But no, truth be told, and I haven't. Larry and I had lunch like right before the pandemic hit, because he and I we don't live all that far away, and so Jess and Jim's in Martin City is kind of halfway for both of us. And we just had a lovely time, but and then the pandemic hit and everybody, got quarantined, and so I haven't seen him in quite a long time, far too long, and that's on my to-do list, is to head back over to
my favorite joke, because we own some property out here in Lone Jack. When people ask me what kind of a mower I have, I said I have a Larry mower. That's my favorite joke of all time. And my second favorite joke is talking about Pete Grigsby, who you know very well.
Absolutely.
Pete Grigsby, who used to do the traffic on my show, or used to do the weather on my show. And he would come on, and obviously he's Mormon. And he would tell me about that. And I would always ask Pete, how many wives do you have, Pete? And he'd go, oh, Randy.
No.
I just have the one wife. And I go, come on, Pete, name all your wives.
And she's adorable, by the way. Let the record. Yes. The song you did way back when Maria Antonia was anchoring First News for us.
Can I just interrupt your plea with Maria Antonia? So Maria Antonio, for years, and I don't know if I'm the only one that discovered this truth, but Maria Antonio speaks perfect English except when she says her name. Yes, that is very true. She would do a full report, and she would speak, and for KMBC, I'm Maria.
He is an absolute delight, continues to be an absolute delight. And, and I worked with her husband, who is, truth be told, one of the best photojournalists in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And now their son works with us. And it's so funny. He's one of our photographers, and he is great. He learned from his dad at the best. And it's kind of funny because when he and I will go out on stories, it's so weird for me because he has so many of his dad's mannerisms, and obviously She has a ton of talent from his family.
Right.
And it's not long before I start, not he listens, I start telling stories about all the things that his father and I
Right.
covered down through the years. Yeah.
So Michael, did you have a question for Kris, or are you just along for the ride today?
Well, I'm so confused because, Kris, if you don't know, I'm a part of Randy's podcast called Randy Miller Radio, and he introduced us with the national offense. I don't know what hat to put on today, Randy. You kicked us off.
There are a lot of hats.
It's confusing, all the shows you have. But no, it is so great to have you, Kris. If I could just jump in and compliment you right off the bat, one of my favorite people on this planet was the first mayor of Independence, Barbara Potts.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And you were the recipient.
Who is alive and well and a dear friend.
Yeah, I've worked with her husband in
Yes.
with Health Commission work for decades.
Yeah.
But you were the recipient of the Barbara Potts Award.
Yes.
Related to domestic. Absolutely. Related to your highlighting and bringing about awareness for domestic violence. And the interesting part of that, Kris, is that's actually how Randy and I connected, believe it or not. It wasn't Hope House, it was Newhouse. Sincerely.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Well, and just a real quick backstory about Barbara Potts, the former mayor of Independence. It was Barbara Potts who many, many years ago recognized the problem of domestic violence in her community, said, we need to do something about it. And she was the one who kind of spearheaded what is now Hope House, one of the largest domestic violence shelters in all of the state of Missouri, with campuses in Independence and in Lee Summit. And the work that they have done and continue to do and will be doing for years to come, the staff there, I'll tell you, this is why, Randy, their seats in heaven will be a hell of a lot better than yours and mine, because of the lives that they save, the lives that they've saved, the lives they continue to save, and will save in the future. But it was Barbara Potts who, again, recognized that problem and said, we need to do something about this, and got people together and resources together. And that's how Hope House, in a nutshell, started. And here it is today. And every year they award someone who, in their estimation, has gone above and beyond when it comes to stopping domestic violence in all of Kansas City. And
to your point, Kris, I mean, my work with Newhouse opened my eyes incredibly to the world of domestic violence. I mean, just the fact of all the situations where women are afraid to report domestic violence, where they can't feel comfortable. In fact, I'll tell you a little, just a stupid little story about myself. My first board meeting at Newhouse, I said, I can't find your website, or I can't find your address on the website. And they said, that's right.
Right, exactly.
I mean, and that's on me, but I had a lot of learning to do, but
sure.
Man, I'll tell you what a great job they do, and what a great job that Hope House does.
But the services all of the domestic violence shelters in Kansas City do. I mean, it's incredible work. It's vital work. And these are people, as I said before, they're saving lives every day.
Yep.
And let's talk about.
And wait, real quick, Randy, one little thing.
Sure. Yeah, you go right ahead, Michael.
You should never open the door. And yet, Kris, I hate to do this. I'm doing a little research for the show. I come across some old footage of you on the news being pepper sprayed all over the place by a female.
Yes.
You're going to have to explain this. She's hitting you in the eyes. She's. You can't get rid of her. She's in your face. You got to give us the backstory. Yeah.
This was a story that we did for the news a long, long time ago. And the woman who in the video was attacking me, for lack of a better way of putting it, was our 10 o'clock producer at the time. And she's now on the staff at MSNBC. So she's gone on to much bigger and better things, certainly. But yes, we worked in conjunction with Lenexa Police to show the difference and the effectiveness between pepper spray and another product that the name escapes me.
Okay.
But one of those products, if you're a woman and you're being attacked, one was more effective than the other, and that was the core of the story that night. But yes, I was Yeah, I was pepper sprayed more than once, and
Wow.
and thankfully there was a paramedic there just in case, and I spent a lot of time in the eye wash sink certainly,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've done a lot in almost 38 years here at KMBC.
Yeah. 38 years. 38 years.
4th of July.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, and people have grown up watching Kris Ketz. I mean, whether it was the time that you started, that you did just reports from the animal rescue places, or just, where you are now. And it's kind of, is it kind of amazing to you to see where you are now? I mean, this is where you need to be. This is where you're supposed to be.
Well, listen, I'll tell you something. And I tell people this all the time. One of my main functions, one of my main priorities, sitting where I sit every night, is not to screw up everybody else's hard work. You know what I mean? but I'm serious about this, because there are an awful lot of people behind the scenes that nobody ever sees, who work terribly hard, probably harder than ever before, getting the news out. And I'm just the front guy. There are so many people behind the scenes who don't get the kind of credit that they should. It's a long and distinguished list of names, and those are the people that really make.
Well, that's very nice of you.
What it is today.
But I do have a problem with the word anchor, because if you look up the word anchor in the dictionary, it means to slow the momentum. So,
well, again, I go back to that. I go back to that line. I'm just trying to not to screw up everybody else's work. See?
Listen, I go back to Michael Mahoney when he shaved his mustache. We made a big deal on my radio show about that. Was called a Mahoney. I mean, what? That was a momentous time in television journalism.
38 years for me at KMBC. Michael has me by about, I think he's pushing 40. He's pushing 40, and still. I'll tell you something. When I walked in to KMBC television, when we were downtown in the Lyric Theater at 49 Central, I had been working in Moline, Illinois at the television station that my father had anchored for 35 years.
And by the way, your father was an incredible anchor for so many years.
He was great, no doubt about it. And so when I walked into KMBC TV on the 4th of July, 1983, it didn't take me long to look around that room and see the kind of product that these guys were putting out. And at my age, and I hadn't been in the business very long. I'd certainly grown up in it, but I hadn't been a professional for very many years. It didn't take me long to figure out that, boy, especially when it came to reporting, man, I was in way over my head. And I will give myself credit for this. At that age, 23, whatever it was, I was at least smart enough to recognize I'm sitting in a newsroom. To my right, the late great Edward Lewis. To my left, Michael Mahoney. Sitting next to him, Bob Worley. And then a couple of months later, Bev Chapman, who, for my money, is still the best writer I've ever been. If I could write as half as good as Bev Chapman did, I will have died and gone to heaven. But I was at least smart enough to recognize if I just kept my mouth shut and watched how these people worked, I might learn something. And
well, now, let's talk about your radio career, because I know this, that when Kris, I mean, this is a known fact among a lot of people in media. Every TV person wants to do radio, and every radio person wants to do TV. So sure. Kris got the opportunity at Hot Talk 1510. Is that right?
Oh, that was yes. I thought you were going to go back to the days I started in Moline, Illinois. But yes, let's talk about.
No. I'm talking about Hot Talk 1510 when you did a weekly show in radio. How was that for you as opposed to TV?
It was a lot of fun. But here's the thing about radio, and the thing that, and my wife's in radio now, and absolutely
we'll get to that in a second. Yeah.
But here's the thing about radio. and especially doing a talk show. You know, you did 4 hours every morning. My wife does 4 hours every afternoon. We're on, I think, for 2 hours once a week. Let me tell you something.
It's a lot.
If it were that easy, everybody would be doing it. And there's a reason why they're not, because it's work. And you're, in many cases, it's live. You're kind of working without a net. You have no idea what's going to happen from one moment to the next, and that spontaneity is probably one of the more endearing things about that medium. But it's hard work. It really, and you can come in thinking that you have your show all blocked out and everything's going to go according to plan,
Right.
and it's going to be just fine. And then it isn't. And then what do? And
Right.
you know, moments of silence don't sell very well in radio. They don't sell well in TV.
Especially at Hot Talk 1510, where you have about 7 listeners.
You know, some days, you know, on a good day we had 6. Yeah.
Your wife.
And we're on AM. We're on 1510, way on the right side of the dial. So you know the signal itself. You know, you're out there in Lone Jack. You know, we probably reached Lee Summit on a good day, but not much beyond that.
Well, listen, when I was doing mornings on 1510, we would create scenarios that were so controversial just to see if people were listening. We'd say, should all animals die? Call it. And no calls. But let's talk about your wife, your incredible wife, Dana Wright. I got a chance to work with Dana at Channel 5, but she is a superstar.
Yeah, she's
in radio. Oh my God.
I am Mr. Dana Wright. It's true.
She is, I mean, I don't know how quickly that came about. It was pretty quick though, because she went from TV to radio, and you got to have those sensibilities. You got to have that connection to the listeners, and she had it all immediately.
You know, there are a lot of reasons why Dana and Parks is as commercially successful as they are.
Right.
I think one of the reasons is that Scott Parks and Dana Wright had almost immediate chemistry.
Right.
Intercom at the time had been talking to Dana about joining the station for years before she finally made the jump.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. There had been conversations, and she just never felt like taking that leap. And
radio was always the bad stepchild of TV. I mean, you know.
But my wife was certainly smart enough to recognize that this was a huge risk, and she was leaving, a fair amount of professional security after the years that she spent and the work that she did at Channel 5. She is, if you look in our house, she has more Emmy Awards than I do. She does. She has more Murrow Awards than I do. She has a KC that hangs on the wall that has her name on it, not mine. So she was really obviously very good at what she did in television. And to give all that up and take the jump into radio was a pretty scary time for her, because she was jumping into a medium where she could do it, but there was a lot about it that she didn't know. And they kind of made it up as they went along.
Well, and plus she was jumping into a marriage with you.
Well, and then that, absolutely, yeah. I mean, never mind the show, but they had immediate chemistry. I think the fact that they both have news backgrounds really helps, because they know what's important in Kansas City and what may not be, and they do a really good job of keeping that show hyper local. And they, you know what, they don't talk about politics, and they figured out a long time ago that
that's what's so refreshing.
You talk about politics on the radio, and there are plenty of places for that, and if people want that, the choices are endless. But they decided that a political conversation on their show was just going to be something that was going to make everybody mad, and why do it?
Well, so, it cost you half the audience immediately, and they figured that out pretty quick. But so when she comes home from her show, here's my question to you.
Yes.
And she's got topics that she wants to talk about with you. Do you leave that at the dinner table, or do you talk about that stuff?
After she comes off the air after talking for 4 hours, about the last thing that she wants to talk about is what they talked about on the radio today. So I'm completely sympathetic to that. I totally get that. So I try and kind of stay away from that. But there are many times I'll come home and just say, boy, we really had a lot of fun with this particular subject. And we'll go back and listen to the podcast at night. But she just, she loves it over there. And Scott and her are just they're like brother and sister. And it's worked out so much better than I think anybody ever thought it would have 8-9 years ago.
Do you think there will be a time that we hear about Dana and Ketz on the radio?
I have filled in for Scott on occasion on that show, and again I go back to your days at 1510, my days at 1510, and I go back to what I said before. If being on the radio was that easy, everybody would be doing it. And and the thing that is hard for me is as a journalist, I can't necessarily offer an opinion one way or another to subjects that are often controversial that they talk about, that my wife is absolutely to jump in, to jump in one side or the other. Come on in. The water's cold. I mean, but she's very comfortable doing that. I am not.
I was interviewed by Steve Kratzky the other day.
Yes,
from KCUR.
Wonderful at that show on Up to Date.
He does a great job, and he does a 1-hour show a day. And he asked me about how do you prepare for a 4-hour show every single day? And I go, Steve, you had no idea. I mean, 1 hour a day is fantastic. That's great for you. I said, but to fill 4 hours of content every single day, he said, would you do it again? I said, I did it. I'm done. I'm good. And the fact that we did it when we did it, like I told you, Kris, that was the perfect time for us to do that, because you couldn't do that stuff now. And it was just a great time in Kansas City and a great time around the country to do that. But, the way that you do the newscast is it's got to be, number one, reliable. It's got to be, people have to trust you. And that trust factor is so big. Do you ever have, I'm sure you have people that complain, but sure. I mean, do you ever have people that say, I don't believe what you're saying?
Yes. Here's how I look at that. The way this thing works is that the people who watch us, our customers, okay?
Right.
We have customers, we have customers.
Right.
You know what? And this is something that hasn't changed down through the years. People get to make that call. They get to decide what they like when they see it and what they don't.
Even more so now.
But the difference now is, as opposed to 25, 30, 40 years ago, is social media. The voices are much louder. They're much more, they're amplified. People have a place to go and be among other like-minded folk. And so their voices, as I say, are much louder now than they've ever been before. But there were always people 25, 30, 40 years ago who had complaints or criticisms about what they saw on television in a newscast. So that really hasn't changed a whole lot. As I say, people get to make that call. And that's okay. And that's how this works. And if you can't take that kind of criticism or heat,
right,
maybe you ought to find something else to do. That's how I've always seen it.
There was a guy when I worked in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, WTAE,
which is our Hearst station in Pittsburgh.
I know.
Those are our guys.
There was an anchor guy named Don Cannon.
Yes.
So he's a legend. So Don Cannon. So just to set the scene, we are directly across from the Holiday Inn in Monroeville, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So Don, after the 6, would amble over to the Holiday Inn and have a couple.
Okay.
And well documented now.
Okay.
But
yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but okay.
Yeah. So he would come back and he would do the 11, and nobody could tell. Yeah. Nobody could tell until they could tell. So, Kris, my question to you is, I mean, you guys are over there near 435. I mean, do you hit the,
Listen, in all seriousness,
at least after this show.
No. But in all seriousness, alcoholism, substance abuse is something that has affected far too many people in my life who I love and respect, right. And immediate members of the family. And I'll tell you something, having gone through what I've gone through, without necessarily going into too much detail here, there's a reason why when Dana and I go out, she loves a good glass of red wine for dinner, depending on.
Oh, yeah, she does.
But here's the thing: there's a reason why I'm the guy who's drinking Diet Coke all night. Because the just having gone through so many episodes of relatives and friends who have dealt with substance abuse, I'm at a point in my life where, I just don't have the same kind of appetite I might have had 40 years ago, because it's just I've just seen the cost and the toll it takes, and it's just not appealing to me anymore. I don't. But if other people do it and they do it responsibly, fine, great. I'm not here to make judgments. But for me, it doesn't work for me.
Let me just toast you with my glass of Diet Coke.
There you go. Exactly.
Michael, any final observations? Anything you want to add?
Absolutely.
Oh no.
Here we go.
No. Okay, Randy, I know we didn't talk about this, but because we're getting close to out of time, what if we did could we do a quick speed round of questions just for Kris? Just bang, bang, bang. Are you good with that? Okay. Well, here's this.
What?
I was going to do a speed round of questions for Kris, but let's just do this. I'd like to know, because you and Randy have had some incredible guests that you've interviewed. Both of you have interviewed presidents, for example, but I'd like to hear some of your favorite interviews over the years.
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, thank you, Randy.
Oh, God, there have been so many. Yes, we both interviewed presidents.
Did you interview Bush?
Yes, but not at the White House. I did Obama at the White House in the.
How was that?
In the Roosevelt Room.
Excuse me.
I was working with a photographer that day who's no longer with us, who's gotten out of the business and moved on to better things. But I remember the interview was set up for like 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon, but we were there first thing in the morning, and the White House, if you're a visiting member of local media, they'll take you across the street and they'll kind of put on a little bit of a show, which is fine, which is you kind of come to expect it. And they give you a tour of the White House. And I remember the photographer I was working with at the time, I could see his eyes kind of getting big and kind of getting, at least I thought at the time, maybe a little bit too much into it. And I finally had to kind of pull him away for a moment and say, "Listen, we're not here for the tour, okay? let's refocus for a little bit, and we're here to do a story." So
you seem to be a guy that's not intimidated by too many people, Kris.
No, and especially as old as I am right now, I'm not much intimidates me.
Yeah, I mean, and I think as you get older, I know at least with me, in terms of interviews and celebrities, you realize that it's not that big a deal.
They're people like everybody else.
They're people. They've got their own struggles. They've got their own situations. We interviewed Alec Baldwin in Central Park with his kids.
Your show, yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that I think you get to at some point in your interviewing life, is that everybody's kind of going through their own thing. So it's not such a big deal. I want to know, technically, was there a huge gaffe in an interview that you went to that was technically crazy?
I can't think of one offhand. No, they've all gone pretty, and I say that knocking
That's
on
pretty
wood.
good.
Who knows what's going to happen, tonight or the rest of this week or this month. I'm tempting fate there. No, everything's for the most part. Like I say, we have really good people here. I'm serious. I'm just trying not to screw up everybody else's hard work.
Well, let's turn the tables then, Kris. I appreciate you promoting Randy's book and interviewing him. What you guys kind of came on the scene around the same time, I think, 83, maybe. Were you, Randy, kind of around that same time? But Kris, did you have either from the book or other memories that you have that were just favorite episodes that you remember from Randy on radio?
Before Kris answers that, Kris was a favorite guest of ours, a judge of ours at all of the different things like the belly flop contest and the homemade bikini contest. Kris was always up for judging those events, and how he had the time and the opportunity to do that, I'll never know, but he was there and he was ready to go.
Yeah, listen, that's an easy one to answer. Everybody listened to Randy Miller in the morning. Why wouldn't you want to be on that show? Come on.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Kris, thank you so much for the time, man. Great catching up with you. Thank you for taking the time. And we're gonna try and follow up on our follow up with Larry Moore just to find out how he's doing.
Please do. Yeah.
Yes. To see how he's.
And again, in case anybody missed it, the book is Prizes, Pranks, and the Purse Lady: The Misadventures of the Randy Miller Morning Show, only at randymillerradio.com.
randymillerradio.com